What up, though? My bro, it's your boy Tone 202. I know I'm looking all old manish, but it bees like that. It bees like that. It bees like that. And I got some kind of something that's eating my skin, man. I don't know. I'm going to call the doctor tomorrow because my nose is lighter than the rest of my face. Look at that. I don't listen. I'm not one of those people who want to remove their melanin. I don't want to be light skinned. You know what I'm saying? But look at my nose. All right, so Jesus. All right, so I've been I've been having them dreams, and the more I lean towards Christ, the worse my dreams get. And for those of you who don't believe in God, you're going to find that if you start believing in Jesus Christ, you're going to get all kind of spiritual resistance. You're going to get regular people who are not going to be, with the program, and they're going to be your family. You're going to get, your bosses or whoever's around you is going to be like, why do you believe it? They're going to try to put doubt in your head. But here's the truth. The truth is Jesus, Yeshua, is real. He's a real person. There's evidence of this. There's hard evidence of it. And no matter what people say, who wrote the Bible and all this other stuff, it's like, no matter what they say, you have Muslims out here trying to debunk the Bible, but yet your book was written after the Bible. Looks a lot like the Bible. You're going to have the Jewish people out here trying to say that Jesus isn't real. You're going to have a lot of people trying to get you not to believe in Jesus, the Christ King, and some people going all the way back to Egyptian lore and bringing up all this data, all this facts. And I tell you one thing. If you want to believe if Jesus is real, ask him. That's it. Just, Lord, are you real? Just, if you got to go in your car and be alone, your prayer closet, wherever you got to be alone. If you take it, and I mean seriously with your heart, not jokingly, because, something might happen to you if you play around with it. What up, what up, what up? Yeah. What up with you, man? What up? But if you ask the Lord, like, God, are you real? Show me you're real. Because the spiritual world is more real than this world you're living in. The pain is a lot more. The pleasure, the joy is a lot more. The water tastes different. The light is more, it's just ridiculous. The dark is scary. The beings are huge, and you can't compete with any of them. You can't compete with not one of these beings who are talking to you. Man, you were spitting some facts yesterday about Trump in the bank. Hey, man, I'm an OG. You know what I'm saying? I'm an old guy. I'm an OG. I'm an old guy. So I lived through some stuff, Brody. I lived through it. And I paid attention because it affected me. You know what I'm saying? Plus, I got outside of America and saw how other people were living. You know what I mean? And once you live outside of America, you're able to get a world view. Not only that, I watch a lot of stuff that is outside of America. So I watch a lot of things that involve other countries, other ethnic groups, and I was trying to say ethnicities. I don't know if that's a word, but other ethnic groups. And, plus I personally know people who do not live in America. They literally have moved out of America and they live in other countries. So I get, their insight, and, I talk to them often. And, so I've dated people who don't live in America, speak English, but they've never been here. And once you've seen that life, and you see how your money is affected when you go to these countries, you wake up to the fact that what's happening here is also happening there financially. So that's how come I was able to tell you about my experience. I always speak from my experience. But and I could have went on talking about that, just to let you know. I try to cut things down because there's not a lot of people who listen to me. I have a lot of followers, but they don't, like, you're the only person listening to me right now. So, I don't get a lot of people that go on my life, but I know Tone love them exotic. Hey man, I'm gonna tell you something about international females. They different. I tell all the broskies, look, get your passport. Get your passport, get some prayer in, Just don't go out there because you might go out there and get lost. Know some people who are out there, go on a tour somewhere where it's safe, and then keep going to the same place until you get used to, you get get your wits about you, and where you're able to, go off with you and the homie, and you guys will be all right, instead of, getting snatched up and never seen again, because that happens in every country. Every country, you can get snatched up and never seen again, never, and it's quick, so I tell people travel, but don't go to Compton, Germany. There's a Compton in every country. Don't go there. There is a Bronx in every single country. So don't go to the Bronx, Brazil. Because if nobody knows you, then that's it for you. Yeah, you might not come back from the Bronx, Brazil. It's sad people still don't believe that there is a higher power. Let me tell you something. I've been believing in God. Oh well, they're gonna learn the hard way about that. I've been believing in God since I was, because I was privileged to have an uncle who was a preacher, and my mother loved him dearly. Now they're both gone, my uncle and my mom. They're both passed away, but that uncle, he was a preacher, and he would, he was one of them old apostolic, Pentecostal, hopping around. And, yeah, and then, he's one of those. I loved him because he loved my mom. And when my mom was troubled, she would drive from Pittsburgh all the way to Ohio to go see him. And she would do it in a whim. She'd just pack us all up and say, "Where we're going?" She said, "We're going to see your uncle." And that was a place where she could feel safe. And he never said, "You can't come here." He knew my mom, she was a troubled woman. She had some issues. You know what I'm saying? And she couldn't, she wasn't a regular get up, go to work, she had a lot of talent about her. And, she really didn't know what to do with a lot of her talent. So she would spend time drawing and doing these puzzles, and, but, she wasn't making any money. So she was frustrated. The men in her life was frustrating her. So she would go to my uncle and talk to him, pray with him, cry. And we would stay for a week there, and he would feed us, and we'd be up in his basement. The kids would, sleep up in his basement. And we just had a good time. He loved us. He knew my mom was going through some things, but he loved us. And when he died, I was a mess. My mom was a mess. She broke down at the funeral. I broke down it was rough. But all my life that I've known him, this guy loved the Lord. He didn't make no bones about it. He had churches, and then they would. He couldn't afford to keep moping, and the last church he had was in his basement. And so I have been someone who's known God all my life. I haven't been the greatest of Christians, but I've known that God exists all my life. And I've had spiritual spirits attack me all my life because of my family's, and my dad was a deacon. So because of their tie to the Holy Spirit, I would get attacked. You know what I mean? So it is what it is. So I can't say, oh, Jesus doesn't exist. I can't say that because it's just he's so much realer than I am that his like when I see him do stuff I know it's not to God. I see him do stuff and I'm just like that is unexplainable. I see things happen. I'm like, I know you did this. Even if it's something I don't like, I'll be like, I know that was you. I hear him say stuff. I'm like, I know you did. Sometimes I'm like, I know you did this, man. Like, I know you did. Like, I can't. So I'm fully convinced in my own mind. When your message is real, people doubt it and don't want to listen. But when trying to cry, the tribulations happens to them. And when people want, they cry out to God when everything hits the fan. It's like, look, I understand that. You want to live your life. You don't want to live according to the scriptures because the scriptures are deep and they cut you deep. They said the word is like, it's sharper than any two-edged sword. It tries to pull you away from what your flesh wants. You want to chase girls. God is like, don't chase girls. I remember one time I was in my old apartment. I used to have a lot of female company, you know what I mean? And one day, I had a bunch of girls over, and then the next day I had a bunch of them over, and I was about to do it again, and the Lord said very clearly, you better stop what you're doing. And it didn't happen ever since then. I was like, okay, I hear you. And one time I was dating this woman, I shouldn't have been dating her at all. But I was like, Lord, look at her and look at me. I was trying to explain myself, because the scripture says, come argue the matter. It says, come let us argue the matter. Like God wants you to come and sit down and have a talk with him about it. He's like, come let us argue the matter. And I went to look because he was like, you better stop messing with that woman. And I was like, hold on a second. Look at me and then look at her. Now unless you have a replacement, just okay, because look, it's lonely over here. Take one good look, you're like, okay, I see what no, look at her. She is extremely attractive, extremely. But he told me to leave her alone, and I didn't want to leave her alone. But what I didn't do was ignore him. I kept praying about it. I kept having a conversation like, I'm getting attention from somebody I find extremely beautiful. I'm extremely attracted to this woman. I mean, extremely. Yeah, I thought about it. Yeah. Well, nonetheless, so what he did was he started giving me dreams. And he gave me this one dream, He gave me a dream about her. And then she called me and said, I just had a dream about us. She's like, we have to stop. So she didn't even believe in Christ. She calls me about a bad dream she had about going to hell. She's like, we have to stop. So how do you explain that? How? It's God. Like I didn't give her the dream. She called me and was just like, we have to stop. I just had a dream. Yeah, it was an act of God. It was just like, okay, I didn't want to stop. Heck, I still would love to see her. I still think about her. Oh my God. But I'm like, Lord, can you like fill the gap? I'm like, don't just leave me out here wanting and not fill the gap with something. Like, do something. So, that's where I'm at now. I can see you in a pulpit, galvanizing the congregation for praise and worship. I can see me telling them, like, look, y'all going, y'all. I can see me telling people, look, straight up, listen, I'm gonna tell you, like, if I was a preacher, okay, so here's one thing preachers do. Here's one thing preachers do. Here's one thing preachers do. The new church has got going on. They tell these goofy women anything they want to hear. And the Bible talks about tingling ears, telling people what they want to hear. And then people go astray because they believe what this preacher's saying, because they think that the Lord is telling him to tell you it's okay to walk in the God's house with your boobs out and your ass out, looking at every man and lusting over every male in it. It's okay for you to do that. It's okay for men to lust after everyone coming in there, including other people's wives. That's completely okay for you guys to run to to the parking lot and get a quickie in and then come and say, the Lord will accept me the way I am. I'm like, I have news for you, and it's not good. You either stop what you're doing or you are going to burn in the lake of fire. That's it, and that's all. You want to go through all these scriptures of thus said, no, here's the truth. You know what you're doing. So you either stop, or when you leave this planet, you're going to go somewhere where you cannot escape. And it's going to be terrible. And you will wish you didn't do it. Now, I understand the men are frustrated because they can't get any. Their wives are telling them no now and then cheating on them. And the Bible talks about that too. This culture that's out here now with these women, I'm just going to go and find something, I'm going to do the mailman, or I'm going to find a young boy from high school. That's what these women are doing. That I'm going to go and get this young dude, and my husband can't do nothing about it because I'll go ahead and divorce him. I'm like, do you have any idea what you're saying? Because let me enlighten you, there are more women in hell than there are men. Lady, look, the court system may side with you, but you got to answer to the final court. And when they take a look at you brazenly banging out high schoolers and college boys, and you have a whole husband, you're in trouble. You can't, listen, there are certain things you can't even walk around. You can't. A lot of these women walk around with the G-string and the thong. They're in trouble because men look at them and desire them. So you have this whole thing that's happening where men are like, I need some action. I'm sitting here to procreate, but I can't do it. I can't get a girlfriend because the women are cheating. The women are divorcing. So the women are cutting the men off. The women are walking the streets. So now you have this mass exodus of people going to find wives, which is what they should do, because the scripture says better to marry than to burn. Lust is very powerful, but just sex is very powerful because everybody wants it, but especially for men and young men, especially if you have your act together, you need some sex. There's no denying that. You need some sex. You need a woman, and in some cases, you might need more than one. You might need to be in a poly relationship. You might need to pray about that, unless you're a deacon. And Scripture says, let the deacon have one wife. But it doesn't say all through the Bible you should only have one wife. It just doesn't read that. It says, let the deacon have one wife. And the reason why I'm saying that is because the women outnumber men 10-1 and 14-1 in some cities. There are whole cities with nothing but. There's a city in Spain or something like that, or Brazil. It's nothing but women, and the men can only come there on the weekends. The whole thing is women. It's all ran by women. So there are a lot of women, especially once they hit 30, who go off into wherever because the men aren't choosing women who are 30-something-year-old unless they're already married to them. So there's a whole dynamic of women who are just growing. I mean, they're aging out of availability for men. And then you got the young women who don't know that they should choose a man at a very, very early age. So you have the man, once he gets established and he's 35, 40, he wants to have a family because now he's got his good job, he's got a nice pension going on. He's like, I need to have some babies. So he doesn't look at a woman who's 35 because he already knows she might be able to give me a child. He's looking at a woman who's fresh out of college, 22, 23, working at Hooters, or the little church girl still hanging to her mom. She just graduated with a sociology degree, and she's still clinging to her mom. She comes to church with her mom every Sunday and Wednesday, and that old G over there is looking at her like, I know your daughter just went to, whatever university. She just graduated. Look, I'm 35. I'm almost 40. She's 22, 23. I want to have some children. But the mother will say, no, you're sick. You're a sick person. You're trying to manipulate this young lady. You're a sick person. Get away. And then we'll call in the rest of the women and they'll all shame this man who's doing what he's naturally supposed to do. And the guy is going, what are you talking about? This woman's of age. She's college educated. She's not a baby. She's not even a teenager. She's a grown woman. And if she's 22, by the time she hits 27, her major birthing years are over. I'm trying to marry her, get about 3 out of her, you know what I'm saying? Which is what I'm supposed to do by God and country. But they've shamed men into this, and now you have this whole dynamic where the young lady in college is a hoe. She's just a complete whore. When she gets out of college, she's still whoring around, and she doesn't think about getting a man until she's 27, 28. She hits 30, then the men are no longer checking for her. And I don't care if you're good looking or not, your chances of finding somebody to marry you decrease the older you get. And now you have all these women in every country who are like this. So, yeah, there's a lot going on. And a lot of this is because of the evil empire that is the United States. A lot of this is happening. And so you just have men who are like, screw it. I have to go find me a wife because I know the scriptures and I'm looking at pornography and that's not good. You got spirits coming through your screen, your TV, your phones, trying to live in your house, talking to you, moving stuff around. It's like, where'd you come from? The porn you were watching. You opened the channel to another dimension. They came through the dimension. Now they're here. You can hear them. You can see them. Other people can hear them and see them. There's no doubt that they're there. People are afraid to come to your house. So you have to kick them out of your house and you have to go and travel to find yourself a bride. And then what's really scary is you can't bring her back here. Because if you do, she's going to be influenced by the women because they're going to come And they're going to swarm you. As soon as they see you with a beautiful woman and you're happy, your neighbors are going to come out of nowhere. They're going to see beautiful Ming Wong, and they're going to get in her ear and tell her to be a whore, tell her to dress a certain way. Why are you wearing that long dress down to your ankles? You don't need to wear that. No, put on this bikini bottom and walk around the whole neighborhood like this with a pair of flip-flops on, your belly open, and your tits showing. And just walk around the neighborhood, walk your dog around the neighborhood so all the men can look at you and, you can go over there and, screw these guys. That's what I do. I have great extramarital affairs. That woman is going to hell. She's going to extramarry her ass right into the fire. She's going to walk across the street to go see Dave, who she ain't got no business going seeing, and bow! She's going to get hit by the mail truck or something, and she's going to be looking at God like, damn, I don't know what to say. Just don't throw me in it. He's going to be like, that's where you're going. You were warned. You didn't care. You didn't ignore it. Now, if you lusting after somebody, you're married, you find somebody else attractive, which is natural. You like, hey, God, I need help. Talk to your spouse. Yo, listen, I need some help. I need help. Talk to God, get in God's ear right now so this thing can go away. But if you just do what you want and you know the scriptures, don't do it. Talk to God. Especially at the gym. Some of them don't. Let me tell you something, bro. I was at the gym about 2 months ago, and I saw this white chick. I'm a Planet Fitness. I goes to Planet Fitness. And I know I'm the old guy. I can't really get with any of those young ladies. This little white girl had to be maybe 19 something. Her and her friend was lifting, doing legs. I was like, okay, I just hit a set or whatever. I'm resting. I look in the mirror. She gets up and has the camel toe. So I see her in the mirror and I turn and she sees me, look at her, and she just stops and looks at me. And I'm like, oh, no. You're not about to put me on the internet talking about I'm being creepy when your whole cooch is showing. I ain't say nothing to her. I just looked at her and she looked at me. I just turned my head like, oh no, I'm not going to be on your highlight reel, some creepy old black guy. No, I know what's going on. You got your leggings on so tight that your camel toe is showing and you did it on purpose. No. I just turned my head. I was like, I already know what's coming. The shame, and then people trying to, contact you and shame you. Oh no, I see it coming. So I'm very careful when I see somebody. And look, I go to Crunch Gym, and it's even worse there. Those girls, especially those girls, their pants are on, so their little shorts are on so tight. And I mean, they make sure, you'll see them in the mirror, making sure the camel toe. I'm like, nah, I'm good. I already see what's going on. Y'all really trying to get some attention. And what I'm curious about is, you women who are trying to get all this attention, you probably already have a man. Like, why even try to get more of this attention? Because it's just the way they are. They want more attention and more attention. And then when a guy looks at them, oh, why are you looking at me? You're a creep. You have on a halter top, a pair of shorts that are painted on, your camel toe showing, you're bending over every 5 seconds. And we're not supposed to look. Look, I'm not, I'm a heterosexual. Okay? I am 100% down to smack to smack the buns. That's what I am. You know what I'm saying? That's what I used to do when I was out there. I was trying to get the draws. So when you all bending over like that and I'm around, my natural instinct is to look. Yeah, trying to put me on TikTok. Nah, Trick, nah. They try to get attention more than you pay attention. Yeah, and you know what? See, now there are, even me, I'm 55, and there will be a woman or two that will approach you and come up to you and say something to you now, because men have got the note. We get it. We got the notice. We got the 411. You ladies, you win. Now you got women who are getting stuck up under machines who lifting, and they catch muscle lock, and the men are like, I got a girl, or I don't want to be on social media. I don't want to be the creep on social media. I don't want to lose my job. People have lost their jobs. I don't want to lose my job. I'm not doing it. You know what I mean? I don't work for nobody but myself, but I'm just saying, now you have guys who are just like, you're on your own. You guys have put men in jail for your accusations. You got men who are still in jail today from a false accusation from one of you female. Nah. So what's the knee-jerk reaction to that? For the men who are single, now you're petrified to talk to a woman. So, you wake up with your thing hard every day. You're like, you don't know what to do. You're like, I don't know. I don't want to be in sin. I don't want to be in lust. But I got, Mr. Winky here, and I don't got no female because the women are totally non-traditional. They can't stand the scriptures. They don't want, you can't tell a woman to come to the gym with something covering their body. You can't. If you walk up to a woman and say, why do you have those skin tight shorts on and your boobs you can't, it is a violation. You're going to jail. You can't do it. I saw one woman dressed like a Pentecostal at the gym. One. I looked at her twice. I was like, okay, she saw me looking, but I turned my head because I still don't want the crazy. You know what I mean? But I was like, that's the way you should be dressed. I mean, she had a whole dress on past her knees. So I already knew what it was. You can't do that. These women are coming in there. They want all these guys to look at them. It's not like they're going to take any of them home, but they just want you to look at them, say something to them so they can embarrass you. And it's all for their validation. I still got it. I'm good looking. I'd be ignoring them. I'd be looking at them like, nah, I'm good. Because I know. Now, sometimes I might, say something to them like, you're pretty or something like that if she's outstanding. But for the most part, I just got to keep going. You got to keep going, bro. And that's creating a huge divide between men and women. And now, in every society, women, here's the thing. In every society where the women, or every civilization where the women have decided, I don't blame you, where the women have decided they don't want to be traditional, that society has collapsed. It just starts collapsing where the men become women and the women become men. When all that, it just starts, that's how Rome fell. And I don't know if you know this, but this is New Rome. We do the same thing the Romans do. We're still running around with the Christian cross, the Crusader cross. The United Military has the Crusader cross on. The papacy still runs a bunch of this stuff in the Vatican. They're the same people who told the Crusaders to go out and, to Jerusalem and murder Saladin's people. That said, we do the same thing. We've been at war for 300 years. We do the same thing. We're still in Rome. We're still in Eastern Rome. It's the same thing. Rome didn't fall. Western Rome fell. Eastern Rome didn't fall. The West fell. The West was where the Caesars, Julius Caesar and all those goofy guys were, complete idiots. They fell, for one, because of Christianity. For two, they were invaded all the time because they kept invading people. Rome was split in two. The part of Rome that didn't fall was ran by, it's where the Bible came from. It's where the people who gathered the Bible in the Council of Nicaea. And that emperor was Constantine. So that was Eastern Rome. And they were attacked by Hannibal, but Hannibal didn't decide to take the city. So, yeah, Rome did not fall. We're still under Roman, influence. We use Roman numerals, the counting system. We use the clock system. We use the court system. That's all the same thing. It's all Roman. So yeah, Rome did not fall. Only the Eastern fell, and they were invaded by Boudica, who were the Britannians. That's because the Roman emperor went up and started messing with the British, which he shouldn't have done, and killed off their king. And so the king's daughter was just like, okay, fine, we're going to come and we're going to invade Rome, and that's what happened. And Rome also made war with the Germanic tribes because they wanted to they wanted their land, for one, and they wanted to bring the Germanic tribes into the fold. And that's when they fought against Vercingetorix. When they fought against Vercingetorix, they would win some, they would lose some, but the more Rome pushed into the Germanic tribes, the more they lost. And eventually, the Roman Empire was the third largest empire that there was. But eventually, it went like this, and then it all started crashing down on them. Because you have to understand, a lot of the citizens of the Roman... You mentioned something about Trump gets reelected and the fighting that's going to happen between us and Mexico. Well, the Mexicans, so the Mexicans, all right, so the cartel has been a part of American history for a long time, especially back in the 80s where America, pretty much lost a bunch of money. And they needed money. The cartels are the ones who started bailing them out. You know what I'm saying? They're the ones who started bailing them out. So, I mean that literally, they started using cartel money in their funding. So when you start looking at the CIA and all of the trickery that the CIA does, you'll find out that a lot of people who are in power, even today, are in power because of the CIA. So when you hear about all of these cartels and stuff like that, a lot of them are in power because of us. We put them in power. So also when you hear about Saddam Hussein, we put Saddam Hussein in power. We put the one who supposedly blew up the Twin Towers, and hid in the mountains of Kabul. We supposedly killed him. We didn't kill him. His family lives here. His family are architects. They live right here. Who's that? Bin Laden. Bin Laden's not dead. He's alive and well. He's a grandfather. They said they killed him, and then his body is, ashes out to the sea. Get out of here. We have no, evidence that you killed. You didn't kill him. You did kill Saddam Hussein, though. You killed him, and took his gold, and the descendants of Saddam Hussein was Nebuchadnezzar. So just to give you a little insight on that. The Iran. Well, we killed somebody from Iran, but we didn't kill their ruler. We killed one of their head guys, so they declared war on us, and that happened not too long ago. So Iran is trying to kill the people who killed one of their leaders. So that did happen, and we also invaded Iran a couple of years ago, also, and then you have Libya, where Gaddafi, they killed Gaddafi, and then of course Libya went to trash, after they killed Gaddafi, and a lot of a lot of these things are all related. So one thing is human trafficking, or Syria, yeah. One thing is human trafficking. Human trafficking is a big, big deal. Now, this whole thing with Jeffrey Epstein, this is not an isolated case. Jeffrey Epstein and this island that, all these people are going to have sex and all these other things that they're doing. Those are that's not an isolated place. That's happening right here in America. And a lot of the kids that are taking, these kids are non-documented. So if you have a non-documented person, that person does not have a social security number or any documents that say that this person is born. So when somebody goes missing, regardless of what age, here in America, if they're born in America, they have a social security number. So let's just say that a 5-year-old just goes missing. Say a wolf dragged her off in the middle of the night, which does happen, in some of these places of the world in America. A wolf or a bear dragged the kid off in the night, but the parents were unawares of what happened until the next day. That kid's officially missing. So there's a hunting party to go find and see if you can track down the kids, so on and so forth. And or some kids just wander off into, whatever. Nonetheless, when a kid is taken or just wanders off and you don't know what happened, they start with the social security number, the address, and numbers and numbers and numbers to try to track where this person is. If you have somebody who is undocumented, there is no number to track them. You don't know where they live. You don't have their name. There's no social security number. There's no passport. There's absolutely nothing. Well, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of these children who are born every day. And they're non-documented on purpose. And they're used for a litany of things. 1, their organs. 2, for trafficking. 3, for slavery and slave labor. There are like 900,000 slaves in the world right now. And a lot of them are from Africa, Libya, and stuff like that. So there's just even in the Congo, there are a lot of those slaves are there. The diamonds that we wear, that we're getting, they pay those people $1 a day. It is slavery. China, huge slave market. So the slavery has never gone away. There's a huge market for slavery. There's a huge market for just people, not necessarily the young ones, but for people, period, because the people who are documented, there is a system that helps keep those people running. You and me, we live by a certain reality. And there are things that the undocumented people, their involvement is sometimes direct in our life, and we may not know it. One of those things is food. So are there people eating people? Absolutely. And a lot of that is starting to come out. So you might have eaten someone before. So that is a real thing. And another thing is it's FDA approved. So this is a real thing. People are eating people. They have been doing this forever. People have been eating people forever. So that's one thing. Another thing are transplants. So when you look at some of the diseases that we have, some of our main diseases that we, Paul Wall was saying that he doesn't wear jewelry. Yeah. Anymore because of, West Africa condition they were reminding. It was that, cobalt for your computers and for your phones. Where do you think cobalt comes from? Comes from Africa. How do you think cobalt is mined with these? That's how cobalt is mined. There's like 15,000 Africans digging in the ground. It's the most. When I say that you can go down there and not come back up, it is real. And there are children doing it. And the mother is not saying, go home and what. No, she's saying, get your ass out of here. You're how old? 9? 7? Get out here. And in some African countries, the children actually go out and they're sex workers. And they're 7, 8 years old, and they go out and they walk the beach and wait for somebody to come and say something to them. And then, that's happening right now. And the police can't do nothing because the police are so weak and the economy is so weak that the only thing they can do is sell themselves. Yeah, like the movie Blood Diamond, but it's just much worse. So cobalt, diamonds, and there are some, but they can't do anything because, the police force is a joke in some of these countries. It's just like their military is a joke. But, the Europeans will constantly step on the neck of Africa and keep them down in every way they can so they can exploit them, so they can use their children, they can use their women. They use the women for everything. When it gets really, really deep and you want to talk about the abortion rates and stuff like that and why there's an abortion clinic in every hood, that's not by accident. They're taking the fetus and they're studying the fetus for, of course, stem cell. But you know what else they're doing? They make all kind of stuff out of dead babies. And one of them is this thing that they inject themselves with, and then they look younger. Sandra Bullock was talking about it on the Ellen Show. It's dead babies, and they take it, make some whatever out of it, inject themselves, and they look younger. Like, it's a very, very real thing that's happening. Yeah. So, like I said, the undocumented are keeping the document, rolling. It's an evil empire. Once you, and part of that is bringing us all back to Biden and Trump. A lot of that activity is now coming to America. It's been here in America, but now it's becoming more and more visible into what's going on because they're shipping these kids in school buses right over the Mexican border. They're just taking them and boom. Now you're seeing more, girls that are in universities. We had one chick, she's in the university, like 20-something. She came up missing. Boom. They was like, where's this chick at? They made such a fuss and she's a black woman. They made such a fuss where this girl was that the people who snatched her brought the girl back to the police station and told the girl to tell them that she's okay. She had $3,000. They took all her money. And it was a Mexican dude. He's like, go tell the police that you're okay and then get back in the car. She went there and she was like, I'm okay. She wasn't okay. She was in the back seat cowering. They did her in. But they probably threatened her whole family, said, if you don't go in there and say that you're okay, we're going to erase your whole family. So what is she going to do? She went in there and said she's okay. Dude drove off with her and the police couldn't do nothing. That just happened. And as a black woman. So it is in our face right now. I even got robbed by one of them. They took my catalytic converter. Like it's a real thing. It's in your neighborhood. It's no longer on the movies. It's no longer on Vice. It is right here. It's in your neighborhood and they're watching you. If you have something of value, it's a good chance they're going to try to take it. If you have daughters, young sons, they are looking at them. They are studying them. Tone, you look like SOS band. Dit, 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 dash, 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 dit, dit, dit. What you know about the SOS band? But it is a real thing. Now, where the president comes in, when President Trump comes in, is President Trump had this big campaign to have this wall. He did not want millions of Mexicans, millions of people from El Salvador. He did not want millions of them coming into the country, especially didn't want them to be what? Undocumented. He didn't want that. He's like, no, I don't want this. I want them to stay in their country. But their country is in civil war. And that's why they fled here. The same thing with Haiti. But you see, when the Haitian people came, they put them back on a boat and told them to go back to Haiti. But the whole thing with Haiti, Haiti's land is not their land. El Salvador's land is their land. Mexicans' land is their land. But Haiti's land actually belongs to the French. And the French did the Haitians in because the Haitians beat the French at war. So the French showed back up with a whole flotilla and was like, you cost us millions of dollars. We're going to blow up everything if you don't pay us. So the Haitians didn't have an army to contest with the French. Boom. The Haitians have been paying them ever since. They do not own the land that they're on. That's why Haiti is in such a gridlock. They're, it's bad for them. But the cartels run the southern countries. So being that they have such an influence here because we borrowed money from them before, they were like, we want access to American people. We want access to American products. We want, okay, so oil. Let's talk about oil. We get a lot of oil from overseas, right? Do you also know a lot of our oil comes from Mexico? I don't know if you guys know this or not. But the thing about it is a lot of that oil comes from the cartel. The cartel steal it. And America buys it. And they come right over the border. So I don't know if you guys know that, but they are part of what keeps America running. This is why they just don't go shut down the cartel. Because they have what we want. And they're stealing it and, selling it to us. And we're like, hey, that's okay because we need it. So, there's that. They struck up some kind of deal with America. And that's why you see an influx. Well, put it to you like this. Hispanic people will become the majority in 2030. Right now, there's roughly 60 million of them. Just within the last couple of years, 4 to 5 million of them have come into the country. Well, it's just it's just regular trade, but America doesn't ask where you get something from if we know it can benefit us. They're not going to ask questions. This is all the CIA and what they've been doing. They're not going to ask questions. This is why certain people can go missing and never see them again. Because the CIA has something to do with it. Okay, so let's look at some examples like Paradise Lost. Paradise Lost was a documentary that came out in the 80s, and it was about Miami, Florida. Paradise Lost, in a nutshell, was talking about how cocaine came into the country, and of course it was shipped into the country, and it was okay because it was affecting Black neighborhoods. This is where you had the whole crack cocaine thing going on, right? So the United States was okay with it because it was affecting us. So they were putting men, mostly, in jail, and of course a lot of them died, but they were putting them in jail for long sentences, especially longer sentences than what's handed down to anybody else. I had an argument with somebody and they were saying there are more white people in jail. I said, no, there are more white people that goes through jail. They were like, well, that's impossible because there are 245 at that time million people here. There's only 40 million of us here. I said, there are more white men who go through the jail system than there are black men, but there are more black men who have longer sentences. When is the last time you seen something on World Star and said this man was in jail for something he didn't do for 28 years, 30 years? What color was that man? They're all black. Now, if you look at the 28, 25 years, 30 years, what does that bring us to? If it's 23 and you got 13, I mean, when you just go back 30 years, you realize it's during the 90s. You know, it's during the 90s, 93. It was during the crack era. A lot of men were blamed for something they didn't do, and then a lot of men were crack dealers, but they got these huge sentences. Now, Bill Clinton had something to do with that, you know, when he got into office, him and Hillary, because they made this whole three strikes you're out thing, and you even go back to Reagan. Reagan was in on that. Reagan was the biggest damn drug dealer on the planet. Him and Nancy, they were in on it, talking about so just say no, but they were the ones who were dealing with the Iran-Contra affair and stuff like that, and helping those drugs come into the country. They wanted to poison black neighborhoods, and they did. The problem was the cocaine spilled into the affluent neighborhoods. So you had the Bulls, you had, you know, these high flying, you know, Magic Johnson and all those, the Lakers, you know, all these guys who are making all this money and all this stuff, and all these women, the majority of the women that they were messing with were all white. So it was cocaine and assholes everywhere. Well, that, you know, that a lot of that stuff was coming in the port of Miami. That's where it was coming from. If you go and even now look at, you know, look at these drug busts that just happened, where they went and got, you know, these submarines, these makeshift submarines that they have. They just found, you know, 5 guys in one of these. One of them was dead, and they found millions and millions of dollars of cocaine. It's the same thing. It keeps happening. But Paradise Lost followed, you know, how this all started, because Miami was pretty much going to crap. And Miami was a big deal back then. It was a big, big deal because a lot of stars went there. You know, a lot of people went there to feel safe because, and a lot of money was in Miami, still is. But a lot of money, a lot of people with big money would go there and to try to get away from the riffraff. And they paid millions and millions of dollars just to live there. And then to come to find out that it was all right there under their feet. And, you know, once it got to a place where they started dying, it's just like, same thing that happened with Freddie Mercury and AIDS. Nobody paid it any attention until Freddie Mercury died. Paradise Lost, nobody cared until rich white people died. Nobody gave a damn. And then that's when they realized, okay, this is, you know, a bad thing. But here's the thing about it. Some of the people who were getting the cocaine were pilots, and they were white. One of the dude's name was Barry. And the CIA told him, go make deals with the cartel and ship, you know, go and buy it, you know, ship it back and forth. That's what he did. He did it all through the CIA. Well, eventually, you know, he got caught, and then we don't know what, you know, CIA was like, we don't have nothing to do with it. And he got shot in his vehicle. They blew his ass up because he told. He got caught and he told. You know what I mean? So they killed him. They just murdered him. So a lot of this that's happening now is coming from that. Now, when it comes to Donald Trump realized, you got to understand, Donald Trump is not a politician. He's a businessman. So when he looks at China, when he looked at the European Union, Brexit, and all them idiots, he looked at Germany and the oil and their dependence. He looked at the war machine that is the United Nations. He's like, all of you owe us money. All of you. Germany, you owe us money. England, France, blah, blah, blah. He's like, you owe us money. He's like the Saudi prince, the king. He's like, listen, you owe me money, king. You got our F-22s and our F-35, A, B, and C versions flying around protecting you, and you ain't paying us what you should be paying us. So this is why you heard about this whole thing with, them and the oil. They were just like, screw America. It was just like, you can't do that. You can't do that over there in Dubai. You can't do that. Because your enemies will come and wipe you off the map. Israel can't do that either. You got to understand, the war that is happening in Ukraine is a snapshot of what's happening all over the world when it comes to the United States. United States is sending their excess that they have, and they've manufactured, they've been sitting on because America needs war to function. They're sending their excess over there, and then there's okay. Russia is fighting with two different eras of weaponry. Their airplanes, damn it, I almost said MiG-29. It's not a MiG-29, but the Sukhois, the Russian Sukhois. So the Russian Sukhois are all Generation 4. So Generation 4 airplanes are RF-22s, are China's J-30. So those are all up-to-date airplanes, even though Generation 5s are coming out soon. But so that's what they're fighting with. However, their tanks are World War II, Cold War era. So their tanks are like 30 years old. So you see a lot of them getting blown up by LAWs, by M2A2 LAWs, handheld rockets. So what America did was America saw that these, their tanks and, can get pretty much dusted by, some of their handheld carriers. But so they said, we want to get rid of all of our LAWs. We want to get all of them, all of our LAWs, all of our TOWs. We want to get rid of all of them. And we want to manufacture new ones. And we want to see what they'll do against these tanks. So they're using real people as cannon fodder and test subjects. When have they done this before? In Japan. They did this in Japan. Fat Boy. When Fat Boy was dropped on them. Hiroshima and Nagasaki. That was a test run. The whole thing with Pearl Harbor, we're the ones who created that. It was all, listen, the ships that went down, for one, the president knew Pearl Harbor was going to happen. He knew. There's no way those planes flew under our radar and we didn't see all those planes coming. They didn't do it. He knew it was going to happen. Why? We needed to test our bombs. So when those men who were in the largest ship we had, I forgot what, the Arizona, I think that's what it was, the Arizona. When the Arizona was hit, it was the largest ship we had. They're like 1,100 men on there, still on there. They lived on it. You know, that's what they did. But it was docked in the harbor. So, you know, they go on and come off, go on, you know what I'm saying? But you have to constantly be in these ships to keep these systems running. Well, that ship got hit, and it was full of people. And when it got hit, it sank in the harbor. It's still there today. So while the ship was sinking, there are bulkheads that close off so water doesn't come in, and eventually, you know, you can, you know, be saved one way or another. Hopefully, you can live for days in some of these bulkheads, especially if you have enough food. Well, as the ship was going down, the men know that, you know, sonically, they can still be heard and let people know, hey, we're still here, come rescue us. They're knocking on these metal walls, and you can still hear them. And they told them not to rescue them. Why? Because they need the tragedy. What happened in 9/11? When 9/11 happened, they said, Bin Laden did this. Plane went down in PA. When they got there was no plane, but there was a big hole in the Pentagon. You know, all these planes are supposed to went down, and they were all done by these, you know, Middle Eastern people. Why did they do it? They wanted to test out their equipment, and they wanted to do what? Destabilize the Middle East. It's the same thing over and over and over again, just being remixed. And what they do, they got the people to believe that these people from the Middle East are terrorists, and they killed those people in those towers. And they blew up any evidence. But the professionals who had nothing to do with it, the building inspectors and then the people who went out to Pennsylvania to look for an airplane that went down, they got out there and they said there was no airplane. They lied and said the airplane came down and hit the ground so hard it disintegrated. There is nowhere in plane crashdom that this has ever happened. Nowhere. They said there was no airplane. When they looked at the Pentagon, there was a big hole in the Pentagon. There was no airplane where the Pentagon was. When you look at the grass, there is no airplane. There's no fuselage. There's no wings. There's no tail. There's no black box. There is no evidence that a plane hit the Pentagon. There's evidence that a rocket hit the Pentagon. And trillions of dollars were taken away the day before it happened. Also, there was a bunch of people that were moved from that area the day before it happened. We need tragedy as an excuse to go into war. This is why those men on the Arizona died. They could have all been rescued. And this is happening over and over and over again. America needs war. They need it to function. And when you really start putting the numbers together, you can almost depict when there's going to be a next major war. Because America will, they will have a press conference, and it won't be the president. It'll be the president's advisor, and they will make a statement to the news that so-and-so country has made threats against America. They've done this against America. They've done that against America. And now people pretty much see the writing on the wall whenever, one of these goofies come out and says, Iran, who can't hold a candle to us in battle, has made threats against America. So they went over there and blew up one of their, it's like, now they're threatening America because when Obama was in the office, Iran cut off the Strait of Hormuz. They blockaded the Strait of Hormuz. Iranian ships. It's like, why did they do that? We're like, oh, they're blockading the Strait of Hormuz. Let's go kill them. It's like, why are they doing it? Because of the oil. And America's like, we're going to send our ships over there, which we did, and we threatened them to get out of the way of the Strait of Hormuz. Move or we're going to blow you up. And they moved. You have the South China Seas. Same thing, except China is saying, "Eat my shorts." They're telling China you cannot build islands in the South China Sea, and they're like, it's the South China Sea. Why can't we build islands? You know why they don't want them to build islands? Ballistic missiles. They don't want them being any closer to being able to fire a ballistic missile into American soil or into any UN soil. But China's like, we're going to do it anyway. Now, some of those islands are not very stable, but nonetheless, it's China. China's going to try something. And now we have this whole thing where China sent over here a weather balloon, and then you got to really think about that. You got to think about how we monitor America and the many ways we monitor America. And you have to ask yourself, how is it a weather balloon can come onto American soil? How did it get from China to here without us knowing nothing about it? And, somebody might say, well, it climbed up 40,000 feet above the clouds, above where airplanes usually fly, because airplanes, their ceiling is 30,000 feet. That's the ceiling. It's above the clouds. That's where airplanes usually go. Well, it might have climbed 40,000 feet, and then descended. Well, that's nonsense, because we know this whole area. We radar. We know everything that's going in and out of this whole area. So that whole thing is a mystery of how a slow flying. What? Let me tell you how ridiculous this is. Let me just give you a little. Russia is the only country that has a nuclear weapon that can fly so fast that we can't catch it. That's it, and that's all. We have nothing that can stop it. Nothing. Nothing. We don't have anything. The only thing that we have is an early warning system that it's coming. And they have several of these. If Russia wanted to push the button, I'm just enlightening you. Russia has a Typhoon class submarine. They have two of them. And they were pretty much dormant, but now they're both active. Hell, one wasn't even in the water, but they activated that one too, to my knowledge. But I know the one is running around. Their Typhoon class submarine is so dangerous because it runs silent, but it's huge. It's bigger than our Ohio class and any other class that we have. And I think our biggest is the Ohio class. This thing is huge. It's got 2 swimming pools in it. It is huge. And it runs silent. This thing was sitting 30 miles off of our coast. It is a nuclear submarine that was sitting 30 miles off of our coast. And when they wanted to let us know that it was there, we knew that it was there. Now, of course, they went ahead and got up out of there because, we don't need a nuclear submarine, that close. But nonetheless, you understand a lot of that water is neutral. There's a Russian ship right now that sits 30 miles outside of our coast, and we know it's there. We see it every day. And they're allowed to be there because it's not our water. There's some waters that we don't claim. So it can sit there all at once. And what they do is they gather information, but we know it's there. How is a slow-flying weather balloon going to enter in anywhere within the United States without us knowing about it? The only thing that's entered in here without us knowing about it is a Typhoon class, a huge a Typhoon class submarine with technology that we don't have now, that we're not using. How's a slow flying 4-story weather balloon. It did. There's something more to whatever that was. This came from China. It's just no way. There's something else to that whole story, but nonetheless, they shot it down and boom, shot it down. That's the end of it. But that's not the end of it. That's the beginning. That is the very beginning of whatever it was. But nonetheless, going back to Trump, this would have never happened on Trump's watch. All of these, I mean, we have 4 million Mexicans, Hispanic people poured into the country in 1 year. When Trump was in office, 1 million in all the time he was in office. When he leaves, 1 year, 4 million. You got people who are missing in California, Texas, white people. You got one guy, he called the police, he called the sheriff. And he said, the cartel are stealing my water. I'm looking at him right now. The sheriff said, I got one deputy and I'm not sending him down there to fight with the cartel. Click. That's it. Some of those people are gone missing. The body count is stacking up because the cartel is wiping out whole families, even babies. They just hit this whole family, and the daughter tried to run, and she was like 20 something. She tried to run with the child. They caught up to her, did her in the head, and shot the baby in the head. The baby. Don't understand nothing. Boom, gone. The baby can't walk. Gone. Now, what they've done is they set up marijuana groves in, the places that they've taken over because, of course, you can flip marijuana. Marijuana is an easy sell. And now, look at it. Now marijuana is what? Legal. In some states. New York, it's not. But you see how the cogs are turning in their favor. But you know what? Let's just go ahead and legalize marijuana. The kids can smoke it, everything. Why all of this breakdown in security? Do you know that they have legalized cocaine too? Look it up. In some places, cocaine is legal. Now you're like, okay, it's an opioid. You perk the 20s, perk 30s. You got your Darvocets. You got your Percocets, Darvocets. Those are all laced with it. Hell, Coca-Cola at one time was laced with coke. Come on. No, the reason why it's no longer laced with coke, the reason why Darvocets and Percocets and opioids are regulated and issued only by medical doctors who went to 12 years of school is because too much of them is dangerous. Highly dangerous, and you will die from them. They're highly addicting. They're highly dangerous. That's why you can only get so many. Now you have it where you can get raw and uncut now. They're trying to legalize this. Raw and uncut cocaine. Now just imagine if cocaine is legal all over the country. Let's just look at the car crashes. Let's just look at let's look at the gun violence from Paradise Lost, from the 90s, from the 80s. Let's go back and look at the gun violence in Miami and look at how many people died. Then let's just go ahead and look at New York and look how the Hispanic people warred against the black people. Now let's take all the gangs, the black gangs, and let's look at all the black gangs, the biggest ones, the Crips, the Bloods, the Disciples, all these black gangs, when they were all warring with each other, and all this other, where are they? You hear about them, but you don't see them as much as you used to. You know why? The cartels. They came, took over everything and shot a bunch of them. You still have, Crips and Bloods out there, but none of them are doing what they used to do. None of them have the same operation. They're not getting the same money that they used to. Used to go and hold down a whole block and just spread across the country. They don't do that no more. You can't tell me where one operation is with a Crips running, and it's a big, affluent operation. But you can tell me where a cartel, and they run it. Why? Because they came and then they took them over. And the CIA, listen, is the enemy of the enemy my friend? The CIA allowed this to happen because they had a problem. They were like, how do we get rid of these people without us getting involved? We hire the cartel. Remember all those wars that were happening in New York? They were all turf wars. You don't hear about those turf wars anymore. You don't hear about them. You hear about black people warring with black people, but you don't hear about warring with anybody else. The cartel. And this is all documented, so you guys can look it up. So they're everywhere now. Like I said, and there's millions of them pouring in. And by 2030, they are going to be the majority. Now, listen, this is how scary that is. Right now, there are roughly about 60 million Hispanic people that live here in America. 60 million. There are 40 million black people that live here. There are roughly 236 million, because that number dropped because of COVID and opioids. It dropped 6 million in like 2 years. And the 2% birth rate of white people, that birth rate is constantly dropping. So there are less and less white people being born, documented white people. So when you look at the majority of this country is white people, with roughly about 236 million white people, and then you look at, you take, 60 and you divide it into that, and I don't know what that number is, but we can get a rough estimate. It's 2, 4 is 24. So the white people outnumber the black people, 1 to 4. I mean, white people outnumber Hispanics 1 to 4. 4 times 6 is 24. So 236 million white people, 60 million. You see the math there. Do you see how this is estimated? That's estimated by, in 7 years from now, Hispanics are going to be the majority. When white people are 236 million, there's going to be 3 times more of them that are going to be here within the next 7 years. 7 years. And that is just shocking. But when you see that 4 million cross the border in a year, you're like, I can see how this is going to happen. I can see how it's going to, in just 1 year, 4 million? Oh, yeah, I can see it. And this is the reason why Trump will never be president. Never. This is the reason why they over-indicted him. This is the reason why they took his indictments, and at first they took his felonies and they dumbed them down to misdemeanors and said, okay, he's going to go away. But when they saw all of the people who were afraid of him, who were in his own party, they said, well, who's going to run against him? DeSantis? What are the chances DeSantis has against Donald Trump? Donald Trump will get to the podium and look at DeSantis, and that will be the end of DeSantis. that will be the, and I'm going to tell you why. Because their party leaders will not support anybody else. Anyone who went against Donald Trump and tried to impeach him All of that is on record. Every single one of them are gone. All the way down to the mayor. Giuliani, just go back and look at the mayors who supported him and then started questioning him. Just you can go all the way down to city council. Anybody who was like, put him in jail, what he did was wrong, they are all gone. He is the party leader. Now, we know that the election is BS. We know that the majority vote, which is us, the people, it doesn't matter. We know this because Hillary Clinton would have been president if the majority vote was a thing, because she beat Donald Trump. We know this. The majority vote doesn't matter. The Library of Congress, those elected officials, the delegates and super delegates, those are the ones who really make the decision. And that's only, like 245 people. What is it? I don't forgot what their titles are, but there's only like 245 people who decide who's going to be president. It's all a joke. So they're going to put somebody up there to run against Biden, but he's going to be a puppet too. If you can't tell that Biden is a puppet, then you haven't been paying attention. Biden has no control whatsoever, but Donald Trump, his whole theme was control America. This is what he's talking about, make America great again. It was never great for me, but nonetheless, when he's talking about make it great again, he's talking about our exports, our import and exports. So when you look at what China's doing, okay, if we buy Mitsubishi, I think that's Japanese. If we buy a Honda, at one time Honda was the number one selling car in America. Its only rival was the Ford Taurus. I don't know what the number one selling is now, but Honda's pretty much still up there. Why? Because it's a reliable car. It's a very nice car, reliable car. Honda factories are, of course, here, right? But nonetheless, the export. Okay, so I used to work for Honda. I was a temp, but nonetheless, I worked there for years. We had 2 lines that ran. Each line would put out nearly 500 cars. So for first shift, 500 cars. For second shift, 500 cars. And then there was another line that ran. So you're looking at almost 2,000 cars. Now, those lines didn't stop, of course, just for break and stuff like that, which is mandated by the government, yada, yada. But nonetheless, they make sure those lines don't stop. They're very meticulous. And the people who are right here in America who's running these plants, the majority of workers are Americans, but the people who own it, straight from the motherland. And I know this because one time I was waiting to get, signed in, and one of the head honchos came. Of course, he came with a, entourage, and then the plant manager, came out. They're both same nationality. I mean, it looked like you stepped off, a plane and went right to China. They came in, saw each other, and bowed. I was like, yeah. These are those folks. They bowed to these people coming in. Bam. And they spoke in their native tongue. Ain't give a damn what we thought. They want to know what the productivity is, what are the numbers. Now, here's the thing. Those cars are already bought before they're made. Already bought. Already. Somebody's already purchased them. there is a car dealership who put in an order for them because they know they're going to sell. We need the 2023, blah, blah, blah. We need the 2024. We need these. We need, give us 500, blah, blah, blah. So you got all these places all, in America, and they're saying, hey, we need these cars. And this is just one plant. There's several of them. Now, that still counts as being an export, even though, it still counts as import-export. You know what I'm saying? Now, what Donald Trump was saying is we're going to pay, what, $45,000, $50,000 for that car? Plus your tax, MSRP, all that other stuff that you break down. $50,000 for that car, let's round it up. In order for us to export that, America pays an extra tax for exports. Anything coming over the water, anything classified as an export, anything classified as foreign, we're paying 26% more tax than if we ship something to China. Donald Trump is a businessman. So what did he do? He said, China, you're going to stop doing this. Now, if you stop doing that, that's a major, cut of the profit, but they don't care because they're super rich. Hell, they own America. They own Australia. They own countries in Africa. They own the land that we're on. But this is one way how they did it. They charge, and they can continue to do it. So when Donald Trump saw this, he was just like, no, you owe us, this is unfair. You owe us money. So he was trying to get the Chinese together like, no, we're not going to keep doing this. We're going to change the import-export. So what happened? You saw all of those ships sitting out in the water, had all those containers and all this other stuff. Donald Trump was the reason for that. He was the reason for that because he looked at all the business deals that are happening. This is all shady. America is, he's saying, put America first. We're not making, listen, in order to pay us $15 an hour, when you start getting into the GDP, the gross domestic, product and all that of America, well, one of the things that helps our GDP is our exports. If we're losing money on exports, then we can't afford to pay our people what they're supposed to be paid. So what happens? Everything, there's a denigration from everything. It starts to water down all the way down to the teenager who's in high school and is working a part-time job at Wendy's or whatever. It affects this person too. It trickles down through the society because when you're not getting the money that you're supposed to get, but you keep putting out this top tier effort. If we keep making the Ford Explorer, which was, I think, the #1 selling truck, if we keep making this great looking vehicle, this good running vehicle, this warranty of 5 years, and it's pumping it out. 5 years, great truck. Most reliable truck on the road, boom. Asians want it, Africans want it, everybody wants this truck. They want the Ford. Everybody wants it because it's a good truck. So we have all the bells and whistles on this Ford. Cost you base model $60,000. The when you want the extra package on it, $75,000 plus shipped. Boom, you pay your taxes, shipping tax, so on and so forth. But it's a great truck. We're going to give you this great product. No, what starts to happen is when you can't pay Jason and Tom and Mary and Sue and Alex and all those people on the line at Ford, when you say, I can no longer pay you $29 an hour. Or when you say, we're gonna stop the second shift. That's what happened at Honda when I was working there. They had 2 lines running. They cut 1 line. They cut it. Boom. There's a plant next door that was putting out Acuras. They cut it. Was making Honda Gold Wings. The motors cut it. You see how that works? So Donald Trump is like, why are we cutting? Like, why are we not making our money? Like why is the Ford Explorer coming out with, instead of the 26-inch rims standard? Why are the 22-inch rims on there now? And they're they're not the chrome wheels. Why? Because we can't afford to put the 26 chrome wheels standard now. We can't afford to do that. How much is a set of 26 chrome wheels on the Ford Explorer? I'll tell you how much it is. It's around $2,000. But now we have to put on the ones with the faux chrome and with the hubcap instead of the chrome. We have to put the ones on the hub. Now each vehicle you're gonna lose $500-$600 on each vehicle. Each going out the door. Well, once that hits, mainland China, the continent of Africa, the Aussies, once the Australians get a hold of it, and they see that this is a standard now, and they have to pay out the wazoo to get the regular 26, the thick Goodyear tires, just deliciousness, plus that clearance. It gave you that extra 2-inch clearance that you needed to go out in the wild and do whatever. Now, once they see that, they're like, let's see what the Germans are doing. Germans got a truck. What they got going on? Now we're going to look at some Germans. That's what happens. Then Mary Sue, Jack, Tom, all of them, they can't get no more overtime. So their 26 an hour is good money, but the overtime is what made it sweet because it was time and a half. So they were doing 110,000, 120,000 with no education, 120,000, busting their ass. They cut that off. Now they're down to 60,000, maybe. And look at it. Now they have a family. They have 3 kids. They have 3 tweens. Pretty much have a 13, a 14, and a 17-year-old. 3 tweens. 2 girls and a boy. They got a house. They got a nice little mortgage going on. And the mother is a stay-at-home mom. Drink that in. Mom is a stay-at-home mom. She stays home. She raises the kids. They got a 3-bedroom. They got a 4-bedroom house. You look at the mortgage, plus the vehicles and everything that they're paying for. Now the husband loses a fourth of his paycheck. What happens? The son has to go to work. The mother has to go to work. This is what Donald Trump was talking about. This is why he went after the Germans. This is why he went after the Saudis. This is why he went after anybody who owed us money, is because America cannot be great. We can't continue to put out great products and these guys not pay us for them. And once middle America starts to fall, it all falls. Middle America is what holds up this country, not the rich. It's middle America. mom and pop stores, import export, uh, the 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 people who are bending over every day and picking our food and doing that, the farmers. Once you hurt those farmers, stuff like that, you're hurting all of America. So, anyways, I'm out. It's your boy Tone 202. God loves you, and so do I.